Ed Gein, the real-life butcher of Plainfield, inspired Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. But now, Netflix's Monster, the Ed Gein Story has brought him back into the spotlight, with a mix of truth and terrifying fiction. And given how sick and twisted this new series is, it has many viewers unsure as to what is, and what isn't, true. Today, we're breaking down 10 things Netflix got right and wrong about the real Ed Gein. Number 1. Who did Ed Gein murder? Was Gein a serial killer with multiple victims? Netflix was right about one thing. Ed Gein murdered 2 women, Mary Hogan, 54, and Bernice Worden, 58. Their deaths were accurately portrayed in the series. After his arrest in 1957, Ed Gein confessed to their deaths, which were confirmed by police when the victims' remains were discovered at his farmhouse. He told authorities he murdered the women because they resembled his dead mother, per the New York Times. However, the show fabricates several other gruesome murders. Over the years, his name has been associated with many of them, though authorities have never confirmed that they were his victims. The series depicts Gein killing his brother Henry, but the details are a bit different to what we witness in Monster. On May 16, 1944, a fire spread across Gein land and Henry went missing. His body was later found unburned but dead with bruises on his head. There was never an investigation into his death or an autopsy, but authorities ruled that it was an accident. However, many historians speculate his mysterious death should have been deemed a murder. Babysitter Evelyn Hartley was just 15 when she vanished on October 24, 1953, in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. She has never been found. Gein was questioned over the disappearance of Evelyn and another local girl, but he denied any involvement. Authorities never confirmed she was one of his victims, and no DNA evidence linked him to Evelyn, either. What happened to Evelyn remains a mystery. Victor Travis and Raymond Burgess were on a deer hunting trip when they vanished without a single trace left behind. While many believe Gein to be responsible for their disappearance and presumed murder, there is no evidence that actually points towards his involvement. And Gein never used a chainsaw to kill anyone. Ed Gein spent the remainder of his life in Wisconsin psychiatric hospitals after confessing to 2 murders in 1957. He was confined to Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Wisconsin and then later Mendota State Hospital in the same state. He was 51 years old when he admitted to his crimes and lived the next 26 years in the 2 hospitals. But did he commit another homicide by killing the head nurse while at a psychiatric hospital? In reality, Gein remained docile, quiet while hospitalized, and never committed another act of violence. So even though Gein was suspected of other murders, there is no evidence that he was responsible. Number 2. Did Ed Gein really exhume and rob graves? Yes, per the Warsaw Times, Gein confessed to robbing the graves of 9 to 10 women. After investigating the gravesites mentioned by Gein, authorities discovered the caskets to be empty, which corroborated Gein's confession. Gein reportedly robbed at least 1 grave in this cemetery, and tampered with 2 others. It's also been reported that he typically only stole the heads of the corpses he robbed, but he did confess to one instance in which he removed an entire body. Netflix shows Ed Gein digging up graves to collect trophies, but the truth is even more disturbing. After his mother's death, Ed was consumed with grief. According to investigators' notes, he couldn't bring himself to dig up her grave, so instead, he exhumed women who resembled her, middle-aged, heavy-set, and maternal. But psychiatrists said Ed wasn't trying to create horror, he was trying to bring his mother back. The grave robbing wasn't about evil or horror, it was about heartbreak twisted into madness. Between 1947 and 1952, Ed Gein prowled local cemeteries under the cover of night, reportedly making over 40 visits to exhume the dead and feed his twisted obsessions. Number 3. Did Ed Gein babysit kids before he became a serial killer? In episode 3 of the series, The Babysitter, it depicts Ed babysitting for a pair of siblings, leading to disastrous results when he attempts to entertain them by wearing dead bodies as masks, and making bones turn into fingers. Ed Gein did babysit kids at one point in his life. It's hard to believe, but it happened, according to a timeline of his life provided by Radford University. Around the 1940s, at the age of 34, Gein babysat children to earn money and support his family. He reportedly enjoyed being in the company of kids, as they were easier to relate to than adults. A biography has stated that the kids liked Gein, as well. So there's no evidence that Ed Gein ever harmed, traumatized, or behaved inappropriately toward the children he babysat. However, the book, Deviant by Harold Schechter, claims Gein would read creepy stories to children. But they enjoyed it apparently. If you're wondering how people allowed it, unlike how Gein is depicted in Monster, the Ed Gein Story, he was actually considered a reliable person and had gained the townspeople's trust. That's part of why the town was so blindsided by his crimes. So, yeah, Gein held a few babysitting jobs in his time, which really shows you never know who a person is. Number 4. Did Ed Gein have an affair with his victim Bernice? Is a supposed romance between Gein and Bernice Worden true? Nope. It's completely made up. There's no proof Ed had any romantic or sexual relationships with his victims. During his time at Central State Hospital, Gein told doctors he had never had a sexual experience, consistent with the strict religious code taught by his late mother. Number 5. Did he commit necrophilia or cannibalism? Netflix shows Gein committing necrophilia, but according to his own confession, the smell of corpses repelled him. Gein was also not a cannibal, as the series suggests. He repeatedly denied eating human flesh, and no evidence supported it. Even investigators found no proof of sexual acts or cannibalism. Netflix twisted the story for drama. Number 6. Helping the FBI arrest Bundy? Did Ed Gein help to catch Ted Bundy, as seen in Netflix's Monster? In the series, Gein helps investigators profile other killers. That never happened. While Gein would have been alive to witness Bundy's case play out in real time, there is no evidence this happened, and the storyline connecting Gein and Bundy in the series is entirely fictional. In real life, Ed was institutionalized and never cooperated on criminal cases. Number 7. Ed's obsession with Christine Jorgensen blends facts with fiction. The series includes a plotline on Gein's growing obsession with Jorgensen, but was Christine Jorgensen a real person? Did he really contact her? And was Ed Gein really fixated on her? We review a few documented facts. The real-life Christine Jorgensen was a New Yorker born on May 30, 1926 and died May 3, 1989. She was an American actress, singer, recording artist, and activist. Jorgensen was a transgender woman who became one of the first people in the United States to undergo gender confirmation surgery in 1951 and 1952. Based on real-life reports, police found books about Jorgensen's sex reassignment operation on Ed's shelves in his house. However, there's no historical evidence that Gein was fixated on Jorgensen. In reality, Ed Gein never met Christine Jorgensen. Thus, his obsession was limited to collecting news clippings about her gender-affirming surgery. In the Netflix series, the show dramatizes scenes in which he contacts or fixates on Jorgensen, but this is a fictional storyline used to explore his psychology and distinguish his violent obsessions from issues of gender identity. Number 8. Was Adeline Watkins Ed's girlfriend? The show portrays Adeline Watkins as Ed's close friend, or even lover. The depiction of Watkins on Monster, the Ed Gein Story, takes significant creative liberties and bears little resemblance to what is publicly known about the real Watkins. In a 1957 Minneapolis Tribune interview, republished in the Wisconsin State Journal, Watkins admitted to dating Gein for over 20 years. She described Gein as good and kind and sweet, and felt that she was taking advantage of him when he gave in to activities that she wanted to pursue. Hauntingly, she also claimed that the couple regularly discussed murders in the news. Approximately 2 weeks after the Wisconsin State Journal story was published, Watkins retracted her claims about a 20-year romance with Gein. In a December 1957 interview published by the Stevens Point Journal, titled, "Woman Declares Gein Romance Was Exaggerated," she claimed the original Tribune story was blown up out of proportion to its importance and containing untrue statements. Specifically, she clarified she had known Gein for 20 years, but any regular interactions between them only occurred after 1954. In truth, their connection was minimal. Her role was stretched for emotional effect. Critics, viewers, and Reddit users largely agree that Monster, the Ed Gein story, over-dramatizes Adeline Watkins' role, taking creative liberties that exaggerate her relationship with Ed Gein and fictionalize events. These portrayals sparked discussions around the ethics of dramatizing real people, particularly those on the sidelines of notorious figures like Ed Gein. Number 9. Was Ed Gein's House of Horrors as bad as depicted in the series? On November 16, 1957, the disappearance of Bernice Worden, the owner of a local hardware store, led police straight to Ed Gein's farm. What they discovered inside surpassed any nightmare. The scene was so macabre that even the most seasoned officers were scarred for life. So, the series was fairly accurate with what was found in Ed Gein's house, including the furniture he made and his assorted projects, displayed like trophies. In addition to the remains of Mary Hogan and Bernice Worden, authorities found chairs upholstered with human skin, bowls made from skulls, human skin masks, a pair of human skin gloves, a box filled with vulvas, lampshades, and a belt made of nipples, just to name a few of the horrors found scattered around his house. But it's worth noting, one of the most well-known items that police found in Gein's home was a full, woman suit and even leggings created from human skin. Chillingly, Gein told police, his goal was to create a woman suit, so that he could become his mother. And that his conflicted feelings about his mother made him want to become more like a woman. Gein is more famously known for what he did to the corpses he exhumed than for the actual murders he committed. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Leatherface, who was based in part on Gein, the killer put the skin of his victims to use. Within days, the house became a symbol of pure evil, a place where the line between human and monster had been erased. Number 10. Ed Gein's gruesome horror legacy. Fact. Where Netflix gets it right, Ed Gein's crimes did shape modern horror. Before chainsaws roared and masked killers stalked the screen, and before horror became blood-soaked, twisted, and disturbingly real, there were monsters, but they were make-believe. Vampires seduced us with their charm and cursed immortality. Frankenstein's creature was a tragic figure stitched from science and sorrow. Werewolves embodied the fear of losing control, of the beast within. These were the nightmares of the silver screen. Gothic, fantastical, safe. But in 1957, the world met a real monster who wasn't born in a writer's imagination. He lived in Plainfield, Wisconsin. And the revelations of Gein's demented compulsions changed America forever and inspired numerous books and horror movies, some of which are considered iconic. Notably, 3 of the most influential horror thriller films ever made: Psycho, 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and based on Robert Bloch's powerful 1959 book; The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, which also drew from the life of Texas serial killer Elmer Wayne Henley; and The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, an Oscar-winning adaptation of Thomas Harris' best-selling novel, 1988. And let's not forget the icons in horror cinema he inspired: Norman Bates, Leatherface, and Buffalo Bill, a legacy that changed cinema forever. On July 26, 1984, Ed Gein died of respiratory failure due to cancer at the age of 77. He's buried in the same soil that once hid his secrets. Buried between his parents and brother in Plainfield Cemetery, his gravesite is no longer quiet, but now lies unmarked. But Ed Gein's story didn't end there. It crawled from the grave, and into the nightmares of generations by every twisted tale inspired by his madness.
Thanks for watching another tale on History, Horrors, and Haunts. Stay tuned. The next tale is already scratching at the coffin lid, and I think it knows your name.